Welcome back to the Balance Boldly podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen, always excited to be in the space with you today. Listen, this week, our special guest is Dr. Tamara Beckford, an emergency medicine physician, best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, and CEO of Your Caring Docs. Dr. Tamara Beckford is on a mission to reduce employee burnout through her workshops and mentorship to helpers and healers across the globe. Dr. Beckford, welcome to the BBP. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for welcoming me to the family.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you here for so many reasons. You are a woman after my own soul. We were talking about that in the green room. Your passion and your mission for helping the helpers and the healers is super important. I wish you were in my ecosystem 13 plus years ago when I was one of those people working in the emergency room too, because God knows burnout is real, especially in healthcare. And I'm so grateful that you're walking this path.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're right. Burnout is real. And you know what? 13 or so years ago, I might have crossed paths with you because I was in Philly during that time.
Ooh.
That's right. So, but now we know how it is, right? As we evolve, we develop additional skills. And with those skill set, much of what we have learned, it's important for us to be able to give back to others. And that's where the space I'm in right now.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. Well, based on your work, both as a physician as well as a specialist in this burnout space and really helping people avoid the treacherous space of what the consequences of burnout basically that can happen. What would you say are some of the ideal symptoms for people to pay attention to before burnout hits full bloom so they can come to someone like you to get help and address it, or to at least acknowledge that something ain't right?
Absolutely. There are a couple of signs, you're right, that occurs before you get into full-blown burnout. So one of the biggest sign is the decrease in the emotional enjoyment or the fulfillment of what you're doing. And we'll also keep in mind, like for the traditional definition of burnout, it's towards your workplace. Yeah. So we might have these feelings towards like life, and we use the word burnout freely, like, oh man, I'm burned out, but the traditional definition is really towards your work or towards your career or your job. So when you start to see that you're having a lack of enjoyment, and I always call that Monday, almost like a Monday morning blues, or even the Sunday night blues. Some Sunday nights we're like, here we go. For those who have the traditional Monday through Friday, you get Saturdays and Sundays off. Sunday evening, it's like, here we go. Now, Monday morning, you're in your car and you're crying 30 minutes or so prior to going in, or you're giving yourself that pep talk like, all right, okay. Okay. If you have to go through all of that, you are heading towards that. If you're starting to notice that your mood at work is changing, you're becoming more irritable towards things that would not normally make you feel, so irritable. You no longer want to connect with those around you. Those are signs that you're probably heading towards burnout. And then when it starts to come into your home, so you have the Friday, I'm feeling better, I'm excited. Yes, I'm going to hang out with some of my coworkers. But then Friday, it's just like, I no longer want to do anything. Saturday, I don't even want to get out of bed. Yeah. Sundays come in, and here we go. We're starting to cycle. And then there's a blur between the days that you're going to have good days or even enjoyment, and then the days that you're not feeling so well. You just have a blur where you're just not feeling yourself at all. All your passion is gone. Things that made you excited, you're no longer excited. When all of that starts to creep upon you, that's the time when you have to take a stock back and see what's going on, right? When you're looking at your job, and if each time, then you're getting, sometimes people will call this in medicine a visceral reaction. And that's just the medical term for just saying you're feeling it in, like, your gut, you're nauseous, your head hurts, your heart is beating, you're sweating, you're starting to have what appears to be like a panic like attack. And that's towards your job.
Yeah.
Then okay, this is a time when I need to step back and probably make some strong decisions within your life.
No, that's a really good point. That for those that may have experienced depression before or familiar for it, this mirrors a lot of those symptoms with that low
Absolutely.
apathy, that lack of interest, and just wanting to participate in things that you normally would. That's such a valuable point, because some people just hit it and they just think, oh, this is just the season that I'm in.
Right.
Or the weather's changing, right? Or
seasonal affective is winter.
Right, exactly. What do we call it? Winter blues, that kind of thing. We'll give justified excuses for what's really happening inside of us because of the variations of things that are external to us, like poor leadership in your organization, or, maybe you really are disconnected from this work because you're good at it, but you're no longer passionate about it. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, when we even talk about it, and that's why it's so important for us to understand and recognize the signs of burnout, because you made a great point when you said for those who have been through depression, you start to notice that it mirrors it. Now, when burnout goes unchecked, and we're not recognizing, and we're not, then yes, we're heading into the space of mental health issues such as the depression. And we know when depression also goes unchecked, we're heading even into deeper thing where you're having visions, or even what we call ideation, where you're coming up with ideas of suicide, or I no longer need to be in this world. What is my point? What is my worth? And that's why it's so important for us to do these evaluation and self-evaluation from the beginning. I do also want to point out, we're going to be real here.
Yeah.
We have moods, and that's normal. Are we happy all the time? No. No, you're not. You know what I mean?
Not if you're living in America. No.
Exactly. So you're going to have periods of flows where you're happy. You have periods of times when you're sad. The main point that I want to really make is that you should not be feeling the downward emotion the majority of the time.
Right.
That's the important aspect.
Yeah.
You will have little ebbs and flows, but it should not be the majority of the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you highlighting almost the kind of 80-20 rule. Like 80% of your life should feel good to you in your bones, in your spirit, in your soul, your agendas, your routines. But the 20% where you're feeling like, blah, that's okay. And it may come in seasons for women, the various hormonal changes that we go through and grow through, for men as well. I know you can speak to both sides of that, but also recognizing that we do hit these life stages when, when you were 20, you had a very different version of what you thought life would be. And maybe you're still vibing off of the possibilities. And then you hit 40 and some of those possibilities didn't align with what you thought 10, 15, 20 years ago. That might spark a moment where you're questioning, well, wait, is this depression? Is this burnout? Is this something else? And being honest with yourself with all of those things does really make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. When we even think about life, I love how you give the analogies of the 20s versus the 40s. And because my mind is a very creative mind, I just started thinking about, for those of us who are in our 40s, when we were in our 20s, remember Nelly and all of those nice hip hop songs, and everyone was vibing. And remember, your knees were good, right? So you could do all the dances. And then you hit the 40s and you're, Ben Gay's your friend, Icy Hot's your friend, but your knees. But you recognize that there's a time where you're having issues. Things change, but your you yourself change, your values deep within should be the same. I mean,
Yeah.
what you want to do towards that might change, but your deeper values should be the same. And your outlook on life might differ a little bit in that, like, I can't do what I did in the 20s, but my impact, like, how can I make an impact on those who are around me? As I mentioned, the things that you've learned within those
Mm-hmm.
20 years, how can I make an impact on life? How can I leave a legacy from what I have
Yes.
learned throughout that time? So those are what goes through your mind. So when you are at the point when you don't even want to think about any of that because you're just so deep on a more than 80% of the time, then that's when you need to really do a check.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you speaking to that wisdom. When
Mm-hmm.
I look at the age difference, because I'm a grandmother of two right now, so I'm well past the 20s mark, and my kids are teasing me. My oldest will be 27 in a hot second, and they're always like, you guys are getting too old, me and my husband, and I'm like, we are wise. That's what we're getting. Now my knees might agree with that old statement and my lower back on some days. But it's that
Absolutely.
wisdom that you're speaking to, Dr. Beckford, of no, you may not be able to do some things that you used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you have to acknowledge that you might be mentally impacted by that, but it should
Mm-hmm.
not drive you into such a low that you are questioning all of your life, where you can look at the gifts you've received from all of those experiential lessons that you've had over the last 10, 15, 20 plus years, whatever that time frame is, and really be able to embrace that. And for me personally, as a balance and relationship advisor, I'm always looking at how to help people do that when they're evaluating creating a different version of what we call work, life, and love, as we were talking about in the green room. And it's really
Absolutely.
difficult to create something if you feel disconnected from yourself, which
Mm-hmm.
is why your work is so important.
And I it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
It's something that took a while to get there. It took a while for me to recognize that. And I'll really give you I really,
I saw it
this is,
too, but we got the backup, so I'm not sure it's saying a hardwire limitation,
yeah,
but I
it
don't.
says your recording. So it said my recording stopped. It uploaded whatever it is that I had up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so are we
Yeah,
okay to continue?
yeah, we're okay because I still got the backup going. I'm not sure why it's saying that. It's saying only
Yeah.
that
And I mean, like,
recordings.
it's like, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
says only yours is recording. Mine stopped. It uploaded whatever it is we
Yeah,
had
the
so far.
message that I have is that is due to a hardware limitation, but I have
Yeah.
no idea what that means.
Okay. So we'll just continue.
It's okay. Hold on, I'm gonna
Right.
clap when are you ready? Okay.
I forgot the question though. Yeah. So as time goes on, we recognize within our lives, like we said, you have different phases, but for me, it wasn't something that came on immediately. I had to realize throughout different portions of my life how important it is to have what this podcast is all about, balance.
Right. Right.
So it is, so when I really sit and think about like what it is, how is it that I was able to achieve the balance that I have right now? Because I can say with confidence that I feel great. And I feel like the balance that I'm having in my life is the best that I've had in the different decades that I've been through.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's weird because this happened during a time when I was, if we really think about it, as an ER doctor, this started in the pandemic. And it's just like, why are
Mm.
you developing balance when this is a time that you should be off balance? And I'll tell you why. Right before the pandemic started, I started to invest in myself. Like I started to invest in like my personal development. I started to invest in, things that I had no idea how much I was going to need it. So
Mm-hmm.
morning routines, things that we talk about, like when I get up in the morning, I invest in my mind, like, and I see the difference when I don't follow these things, right? So yes, I'm going to get up. I'm a spiritual person, so I'm getting up, I'm reading my Bible, and I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to positive messages. So by the time I get my day started, it's kind of like a bring it on, because you ain't about
Yes.
to break this right here.
Yes,
You
you
are not
powered
going to
up.
completely powered up. I call it entering into my day versus letting my day enter into me.
Mm,
And I
yes.
feel the difference when I don't do it. When I immediately jump on and read that email, like, this person said that this, why didn't you do this? Hey, did you leave this here? Can you find, like, and you just see your emotions change.
Yeah.
And if we really keep mind when we talk about balance, we know that naturally the human brain is wired for negativity. So when you feed it negativity the first thing in the morning, it is in its realm. And then to bring yourself from that negative to the positive, it is hard. And
Yes.
sometimes it might not even happen that day. But when you start off with the positive realm, it is harder to bring you into the negative realm. And that's where I choose to be, in the positive. So I found that when I do that, I balance out. My day is better. And if my day is better, my stress level is down. My stress level is down, then, I'm here for me. I'm here for my family. I'm here even when I go to work. It balances itself out, and it's a great place to be.
Listen, you are speaking to the queen of being intentionally selfish to create that time for myself, because spiritual as well. It is
Mm-hmm.
me and God first and foremost in the morning. And
Mm-hmm.
the house could be burning down. We're good. We're right now in this moment, unless there is a physical fire touching my feet, I need to say thank you. I need to be
Absolutely.
in that space. I mean, to your point, it allows me personally, as well as all the clients that I teach and guide and support. When you do that, you leave very little room for things that do not belong to you to enter in, right? Reacting to other people's
Absolutely.
fires and all that before you power up.
Yeah.
That's such a good gift. I was about to ask you, and I feel like you answered. I was going to say, how do you give yourself permission to pause? But I feel like that gift that you gave for
Hmm.
powering up is a crucial one. But you might have another one. Feel free.
That is my great permission to pause. And interestingly, I love the fact that you use the word pause, because when I talk about even self-care and how to reduce burnout, one of my technique is called the pause technique.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
P is literally pausing. A is to acknowledge your stressors. You understand how the stressors affect you. When we talked about that visceral reaction, some people get that, right? Palpitation, anxiety, headaches,
Mm-hmm.
like understand how the stressors affecting you. Set a self-care goal. So what techniques are you going to use? Are you going to take a walk? Are you doing deep breathing exercises? Are you doing meditation? Are you journaling? Are you doing gratitude practice? Like, set a self-care goal and then execute it. Do it. Do the goal. Okay, I'm going to do this for 2 minutes and get myself out of this realm. I'm going to do this for 5 minutes, get myself out. I'm going to go dance. I'm going to listen to my favorite tracks that just gets me out of the mood that I'm in. And I'm going to do it right now. So that's my pause technique. So that's why I love when you say, what do you do to pause? I'm like, literally pause.
I started this by saying, like, we're in the same pod. We're two peas in the
Mhm.
pod on so many levels. I am so grateful for you. I know you have a very full schedule today. So as much as I want to hold you here, I want to be mindful. How can people connect with you and get more of Dr. Tamara Beckford?
Absolutely. So I am very active on LinkedIn. So you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. That's just my name, Tamara Beckford, MD. Or if you want to send me an email, you can do so at Dr. Beckford. That's DrBeckford at URCaringDocs.com. My webpage, where you see all things that I do. And yes, do not become overwhelmed. I am very active. It's on yourcaringdocs.com. That's URCaringDocs.com. So you can connect with me in either of those 3 ways.
I love it. And of course, we will have all of the links down below for everyone who's on their Peloton, their treadmill, walking their dog, frog, or toddler right now and outside to make sure you have that to link back. Thank you so much for carving out this time. We appreciate you, and your work is so valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. And thank you again, the Balance Boldly family. Thank you for having me.
Balance Boldly listeners, I tell you all the time, I'm not playing any games in 2023. Look at these amazing humans that we are bringing to you. As always, 2 quick asks. 1 is to share this with at least one other person who could benefit from hearing Dr. Beckford's story. And 2, make sure you enjoy the balance of your day, but remember, do it boldly.